In the wildwood of accounting, we all know garbage data in means garbage data out. The same thing applies to your body. As a C-suite guy who obviously lifts, I want to be just as sharp in the boardroom as I am in the weight room. I don't have time for guesswork supplements or flashy nonsense, and that's why I use Redcon One. Clean ingredients, real formulas, stuff that actually works when you're training at 5 a.m. at the gym or burning midnight oil in your month-end grind. So whether you're an accounting bro, finance bro, or business leader in an NGO, if you want more energy, better recovery, and fewer excuses, this is your sign. Head to redcon1.com and use promo code BIZBUYSANDBS for 20% off. Don't just audit your numbers, audit your nutrition by leaning into America's favorite supplements at Redcon One. Yeah.
Business, biceps, a little BS. Fitness mixed with finance, now you're really gonna see us as we're learning, growing. All your minds we're blowing, earning while we're burning. Shirts are tight so gains are showing. Resolve, evolve, absolve, it's time to make a move. Better check yourself, cause if you're doubting, no, we got the proof. Voices speaking loud, cause we're proud about what we can do. Tickling your ears with CPE, rooted in the truth.
No, it's really cool. So Rob and John, you are hailing from Boston, and I'm excited to have you here on Business, Biceps, and BS. And don't worry, we will get you to flex before you get off this show. But tell me a little bit about yourself. I mean, you came out of the gates with this book, The Good Investor, and this book is actually stirring up some conversation. But it's because it comes from a very unique perspective. I would say unique from the standpoint of the secular world, right? But not so unique from a biblical standpoint or Judeo-Christian standpoint. And so I'm really interested to see, you've got this book. You're now doing an interesting series that if you want to talk about, you can. Up to you. But I'd love to just know, like, what drove you to writing this book and taking on this what I feel is a monumental task to try and shift the perspective of accounting and finance people and investors everywhere to just be a little bit more rooted in their decision making.
Yeah, most Christians are, I think, not thinking carefully about where they're investing, where they're working. And, my desire with this book was to really open up people's eyes to the fact that investing is a tool to either promote human flourishing, or investing can be something that creates harm in the world. And so most people don't think that way. Most people are investing in the S&P 500 or in some index and not thinking about what they're actually investing in. So if you look inside the S&P 500, you're going to find pornography, tobacco, abortion, all sorts of things that Christians would not want to partner with. So in this book, I wanted to share my story of how I came about some of these convictions. It starts with me praying for a calling and praying that God would give me a purpose, and then finding purpose in my work, and how God led me into the work of investing. And then I open up kind of a biblical framework, a theology of work, and specifically a theology of investing. So I ultimately wanted to write something down for people to inspire them in their work, inspire them in their investing, not to invest like the world, but to think more biblically. Ultimately, I do believe that as Christians, we are not to conform to the patterns of the world, that we should do things that are more God-honoring and biblically aligned.
No, I 100% behind you on that one. I think it's so just to kind of give you an idea of where I am in so I'm doing the read the Bible in a year, right? And I'm using the Bible Project, which is if you don't know about this, they're amazing in their artistic ways of how they tell stories. Again, you and I talked about storytelling and how accounting and finance people really need to lean into storytelling because we have so much to say. It's just our nouns and verbs are numbers, right? But one of the things where I am in the story is that we're talking about Exodus, right? The people have just left, and they parted the Red Sea, and the Red Sea came and crashed down on Pharaoh and all the people that were pursuing them. But if you back up in that story, the very first CPA, I kind of give him this moniker, is Joseph. The very first CPA in the Bible is Joseph. And why do I say that? Well, because Joseph was the one that certainly he had this dream of 7 years of greatness and 7 years of famine, right? And so when he went to Pharaoh and said, hey, we got to prepare for this stuff, he started bringing the grain into the storehouse. And he was counting it all, everything, because he had to not only support the Egyptian economy, right? Everybody who came to town, because he had the foresight, was given the foresight that this entire place is going to be desolate. I need to be able to not only feed the people here, but feed the people who are coming in. And so, I mean, think about that. Think about the kind of stuff that we look at today from a standpoint of like, I need to invest for the future. What are we talking about? Making a few bucks, making more money, less money? He was saving lives, right?
Yes.
And and for 7 years, it was like the first year, not too bad. Okay, wait, no, ration that out. It's like, come on, man, it's a party, bro. No, ration it out. We have 6 more years. We have 5 more years. We have 3 more years, right? And so Joseph, in my estimation, I give him the first CPA. In fact, if he was in Egypt, he'd be a chartered accountant, right?
Yes.
Because I don't think there was any U.S. GAAP back then. But anyway, but what I love about that story is that specifically Joseph, when he was put in this position of authority, right, like basically the right hand of Pharaoh, right, he didn't use his power to lord over the people with this newfound wealth. And by the way, the wealth at that time, when you're hungry, your wealth is food, right? And he didn't lord over the power. He basically said, I have brought this into the storehouse faithfully, and now I can dole this out. And of course, it led to the reunion of he and his family. Also led to 430 years of captivity for the Jews, but which again, now they've escaped. If there was no captivity, there would be no great Exodus story, right? But all that being said, there's foresight here for people who are in these powerful positions, in positions of influence. We have to not just think about ourselves, but we have to think about who are the individuals, the families, the people groups, the regions that my decision is going to affect. One of the things that I talk about specifically with my students over at SCAD, the Savannah College of Art and Design, is that we have a discussion hub every week, and it's kind of funny because I can feel them rolling their eyes when I say this. And I was like, I need you to go to Yahoo Finance. I need you to pull a link. It just has anything that has to do with economics or finance or what have you, because it's a business class. Basically it's a cost accounting class, right? And I'm like, well, that doesn't really make sense. Like, why should I care? I was like, let me tell you why you should care. Because like what's happening in Davos right now, it may be like a news story that's happening, miles and miles and miles away, but that stuff will eventually trickle down into our regional and local economies. And if you as a business owner are not paying attention to what's happening way over there, eventually it's going to hit your hometown and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Why didn't I prepare? Why didn't I bring the grain into the storehouse? And so I'm constantly on them, said, I want you guys to understand something. Just because you're creatives and you're taking intellectual property and you're putting out all this beautiful work, whether it's sculpture, painting, video game design, industrial fashion, whatever it is, you're putting all this beautifulness out into the world. At some point, it's going to have to be inside some kind of business construct. So you're either going to give this stuff to somebody to go sell inside their business, or I'm going to teach you the skills here to go do your own business. But the point is that these global events they may not be here today, but the reverberations, the ripple effects will eventually come and zero in on where you are, and you just have to know what's going on. And so with that, And with, I mean, I'm sure you're investing and the things that you come across, not just from a regional standpoint, not just from a U.S. standpoint, not just from an American standpoint, but from a global standpoint, you are probably plugged in everywhere in order to kind of anticipate these trends, right? So tell me about that. Tell me how you, when things happen, a butterfly flaps its wings over there, and it's gonna, you know, it's gonna affect us over here. How do you get people to kind of fall in line and say, we need to get this now? You have to be prepared.
Yeah, so we have a team here, an investment team, and there's so much work that goes into finding a company and investing carefully in that company. So we have to know macro trends, right? So based on the macro trends, we position our portfolios either more aggressively or less aggressively, depending on where we think the trends are going, what we think the interest rates are going to do. That said, then at the micro level, we got to analyze each company individually. Mm-hmm. And in the book, I talk about the Uyghur issue. So we could be only focused on returns as investors and say, you know what, we can make money in so-and-so company. But to use the Joseph example, if we're looking beyond ourselves, like for example, like coming back to Joseph example, when he was at Potiphar's house, if he was only thinking about himself, he could have got away and he would have been promoted in Potiphar's house. But he always had this view of doing the right thing, honoring God and loving his neighbor. And in this case, he did the right thing for Potiphar, even though Potiphar would then put him in jail. We have to think about others in all of our decision making. And so when we're investing in companies, we're looking to see how the company is treating their customers, their employees, their host communities, their environment, and society. And ultimately, when we are looking at these companies, we want to know that the company's products are good for the world and that their practices are good for the world. So in the book, I use the Uyghur people example. It's a Muslim people in Western China who are really being oppressed by the Chinese government. And there's about 1 million of them incarcerated and being forced into slave labor. Their wives and kids wives are being raped, and the men are locked up and forced to work. The soldiers live at home with the wives and the kids. And we as Americans are profiting from this. If you are investing in, so at Eventide, we were investing in the solar companies. We found out that the solar supply chain was using slave labor from Western China. It's a region called Xinjiang in Western China. The people group is called the Uyghur people. They're ethnic and religious minorities in China. As soon as we found out about this, we decided that we needed to reach out and engage these solar companies. We asked the solar companies to engage their supply chains, and ultimately we asked them to divest from these supply chains and change their supply chains. What these companies did is they created bifurcated supply chains, where the clean supply came to the US, the tainted supply went to the rest of the world. We ultimately had to divest from that. So again, if you're only thinking about yourself, you may stay invested in that company to make the profits you possibly could make. But at Eventide, we want to be investing in companies that are promoting the common good, that are promoting human flourishing alongside profits. We don't want to profit at the expense of someone else's suffering.
Well, what I find fascinating about that story in particular is that you mentioned that this is a Muslim people. And that you are a Christian, probably have Judeo-Christian values that are pushed through Eventide, right? So the question that probably comes to people's minds is like, well, why would you care about Muslim people over in China? That doesn't really make it. They're not even your people. They worship a different God, right? So in this case, what do you see there in that particular example? Why did you feel like you needed to take that stance that you did? Because technically, there'd be Christians out there who's like, they're kind of getting what they deserve. What's your take on that?
Yeah, my take would be, ultimately when we were praying and starting Eventide, we wanted to bring the love your neighbor principle into our investing. So we came up with 6 neighbors: the customers, the employees, the supply chain. I mentioned it, host communities, environment, society. And ultimately, when we think about neighbor, we think about the Good Samaritan. And the Samaritan was not a Jew, right? So the Samaritan could have said the same thing and said, well, I'm taking care of other Samaritans. But he decides to take care of the Jewish person that is injured and lying on the side of the road. So I do believe that we have to make others our neighbors, even when it's not natural. So when we are investing in a company, I do believe as investors, we're making these people our neighbors. We're responsible. We are profiting from them. So we have to be responsible for how we're profiting, that we're not hurting others to profit ourselves. In the Bible, we see a story of King David when he's in the cave of Adullam, and it's towards the end of his life. The Bible says that the Philistines had taken over the stronghold, so they basically took over, his country.
Okay.
And David is hiding out in a cave, and he says, "Oh, I'm so thirsty. I wish I could drink water from so and so well in Bethlehem." So he wants water from a specific well that he likes to drink from. The Bible says that his mighty men overheard him. They put their lives at risk. They get the water. They bring it back to him. David says, "I cannot drink this water. Is it not the blood of my men?" I can't imagine that these soldiers would give their king blood to drink.
Right.
So when David looks at the water, he's imagining the cost to his people. He makes a statement: "I don't want to benefit from your lives being put at risk. Your lives are more important to me than this water, this benefit." I think as Christians, Christian investors, we have to be mindful of the people that we might be harming in order to profit ourselves.
Well, I'm interested. So, certainly from a faith-based standpoint, you can have you have certain convictions that allow you to say, "Hey, I'm going to go this way, or I'm going to go this way," right? And a lot of them are as bright as day, right? So yeah, that is an absolute no. There's probably some gray in there too, where it's like we didn't, like what you said there with your Uwagi people. Is that right? Did I say that correctly?
The Uyghur people.
Uyghur. So with the Uyghur people, they changed it, but they still kept their practices going. You're like, hey, listen, we got to back out. We got to back out. So I'm interested because when ESG started making a push, right? And this is what, maybe 5-6 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, all of a sudden, environmental, social, and governance became the big deal, right? And at the time, I was running a data company, and people were asking me, "Hey, can you run some analyses on ESG and what are the returns? Who's involved? All this." There were some big companies that were backing these types of portfolios, and so people were like, "Oh yeah, ESG, got to do it. ESG, ESG." It was like the big buzzword all on Wall Street and everywhere, right? But my problem with the ESG movement, and that kind of came in on the DEI movement too. So they kind of both entered the market at the same time. One was taking the internal firm, and the other one was taking more an investment. But they were kind of the same thing. Again, in my neophyte investing way of looking at it, ESG though was interesting to me because I always thought it was a fad. I thought it was cool that, hey, there's people that really like these. There's a generation of investors that are coming up, and they really are not taking jobs at organizations because they don't believe in the values of the organization. That is a perfect way to put your values on the table and say, this is just not for me, man. I'm going to go over here. I don't care. I'm okay with taking less money and working for this organization because their values match my values. Then you take it into investing, where people think, well, money is money, money, money. No big deal. As long as my money is going up, we're all winning, right? And so in this case of the ESG, where I get the environment stuff, I get the social stuff. I get the governance stuff. The piece that I thought was always so strange is that there was like this almost a vigilanteism about it. That if you were not investing in ESG products, then all of a sudden you were almost ostracized from a market that's been in business for what, centuries? And so it was really interesting how it just came in and it took everybody by storm and almost paralyzed people. We have to have ESG. When the SPACs started coming in, it had to be environmental, had to have social, had to have governance. And And I found that to just be a really strange time for the investing community. And I wasn't even in the investing. I had a 401k, right? So tell me about, I think ESG's it's probably on its way out in the terms of ESG at proper. But I'm curious how you approach that particular portfolio or those products out there and what they espouse, because and whether it lines up with Eventide's values.
Yeah, so ESG and faith-based investing are two different things.
Okay.
And so they're probably under a big umbrella. So what ESG tries to do is to bring these factors, environmental, social, governance factors, into investing. But a lot of it has to do with promoting a liberal agenda. And it's about DEI. It's about diversity on the boards. It's all these things that were really annoying Christians. And Christians would say, I think there was a backlash to ESG. But what I want to encourage Christians to think about are the Christian values, our values. So rather than saying ESG is bad, why don't we ask, what are the values that we have, and try to incorporate those values into our investing? So we do value life at all stages. We value the life of the unborn child, right? We value freedom from addiction of pornography and tobacco and whatever. So what are the things that we value? Let's promote those values in our investing. ESG has their own values, which are different than the Christian values. I was recently looking and saw that, I don't know if you know, that Pornhub got purchased by a firm called Ethical Capital. The name of the firm is Ethical Capital.
Nice.
And so one of the things I've seen with even ESG is that the values have shifted over the years. But for Christians, we have values that don't shift, because these are biblical values that are that are everlasting values, the God-given values. So we have to be really mindful of what is happening around us, careful not to conform to the patterns of the world, but really renew our minds and stay committed to the Word of God.
No, I agree, and I really appreciate your view on this, and I'm glad to know that there's organizations out there that are taking this seriously, because a lot of times when Christians and Judeo-Christian people get into investments, they have a little extra money, they want to do something with it, they want to save for the future, right? Many of them don't know that there are firms out there that do what you do, right? That espouse the things that they espouse. And so I'm glad to know that there are entities like Eventide out there. You're probably one of many that I again, neophyte in this area. But I'm very excited to know that you are the guardians at the gate and willing to lead people in that way. Yeah.
Let me give you one example of the ridiculousness of ESG. Okay, so so we were investing in a small cap biotech company many years ago. And this company was seeking to cure cancer, lung cancer. Okay, the company's been bought out since. But that company was seeking to cure lung cancer. According to an ESG vendor, there are multiple ESG data vendors. We are signed up to these vendors. I tell our team, these are data vendors. They're not values vendors for Eventide.
Okay.
So one of these vendors had these impact scores. They gave Philip Morris International, the tobacco company causing lung cancer, a higher ESG score than the small biotech company that was trying to cure lung cancer. Why is that? It's because the large Philip Morris International had diversity on their board, more than the small company. They were disclosing how they're using water. The small company didn't even think to disclose water usage. But at the end of the day, if you're killing a person through your product, how can you rate that company higher? Because ESG just becomes a check-the-box exercise at the end of the day.
Yep. No, you're right, and it's actually that's where when my data company was coming out, we were trying to figure out a way, because we had this modeler it's a human-assisted predictive modeler. We had patented on it and everything, and what we were at the time we were using it for scouting, like athletic data, right, helping scouts make better decisions through weeding down a candidate pool a lot quicker. So when ESG came out, we're like, hey, there's all these people talking about there was a scoring system, right? And it's like, what's your E, what's your S, what's your G score? And you could actually read. I think the one that I was reading was a BlackRock, I think, that had the original scoring sheet. And the problem was the scoring sheet wasn't objective at all. It was about as objective as it gets. And then when you go to look at, okay, well, this is, and I say BlackRock because BlackRock was the first one that actually came out with like a legitimate, here's what we think, boom, 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 right? But then you start looking around at all these other ones in the market, and you say, well, wait, they're looking at environment different than they're looking at environment. So who's right? And I think that's what the problem was. It's like what you're saying is that when you don't have a firm foundation upon which you stand that's consistent across the board, then whatever makes this boat float over here may not be what makes this boat float over here. And so we're moving in different waves, right? And so what ends up happening is that, well, my opinion is better than your opinion. It's like, well, yeah, but I have more money. I can move a market. But yeah, and it's just bang, 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 right? So. Yeah. What I found interesting is that we were trying to put a scoring system out there to try to negate all of this subjectivity in these things, and we got to the point where it was like, dude, we can't figure this out because there's way too much volatility in the definitions of the scoring system. Yes. And so it all comes back down to, okay, well then let's just erase the E, the S, the G, pick any other letter in the alphabet, and go back to what do you know? What do you believe? What do you really want to put your money into, right? They say that when you put your money into the local church, your local church, if you're a member of the local church, that local church should be. They should be supporting not only the local area, but some of them have a bigger missions budgets, right? Some of them can't afford that. I totally get that. But what is your local church putting their money into? If the local church looked at it and said, hey, I'm going to put my money into this investment vehicle, and they found out that investment vehicle was attached to these people over in China, someone on the board might be like, can we talk about this real quick, right? But of course, when you get into the secular world, the goal is to make money. It's not to really care about someone who's way over there. Well, that's not my kid. That's not my mom, you know? So I think it's really interesting because I think if you truly have the empathy for another human being, we are called to love God first, and we are called to love our brothers just as we would love ourselves, right? That's first and second. And if that second one isn't there, then what else is there?
Right.
I don't know where you go from there, because at that point, then it becomes all very self-centered. And the biggest of the seven, I believe, is greed. I think greed takes out the entire thing. Everything draws back to greed. And if that's the case, if that's what's really driving us, then I mean, everybody's out for themselves.
Yes.
We're back to living in caves and just beating people over the head with clubs, and but now we do it with a suit and tie on.
Yes. At the same time, I do believe that. So yes, I agree with you. The Bible says that all the commandments are summed up in that one commandment, to love your neighbor as yourself. The Bible says it is a royal law of Scripture to love your neighbor as yourself. So everything we do has to be centered around this principle of loving God and loving your neighbor. I mean, if we could do that, I do believe someday we're going to hear, well done, good and faithful servant. That said, there's so many questions that we should be asking as Christians. We cannot be conforming to the patterns of the world. And, the Bible says that basically at the end of the day, that God is looking for faithfulness. And I think we're looking for success. Someday when we stand before God, we want to hear, well done, good and faithful. The word good comes from the book of Genesis. It says that we were created in God's image, in his likeness. The Bible says so that we could continue the work that God started. The work that God did on the earth was good work. He calls it good over and over and over again. So we should be doing work that God calls good. Our investing should be investing that God could call good. And if we do that well, I do believe that we're going to help create a world that we could be proud of. And ultimately, when we think about investing, there are two components of investing that I often talk about. One component is that, we want to make profit, right? But we want to make it in an ethical way. The Bible talks in Proverbs 1 about avoiding ill-gotten gain. And so we want to avoid ill-gotten gain. Proverbs 16:8 says, better is a little bit with righteousness than great revenues with injustice. The book of Malachi, the book of Isaiah, the book of James, the Bible has so much to say about even how we treat our employees and how we seek to profit from our employees. Leviticus 19 talks about it. The love your neighbor first time in the Bible shows up in Leviticus 19. It speaks to business people, to vineyard owners, to farmers, and tells us how to treat our hired servants, and says, love your neighbor as yourself. So we should be seeking to profit in ways that are ethical and not pursuing ill-gotten gain. Deuteronomy 23:18 says not to bring the earnings of a male or female prostitute into the temple to pay any vow, for this is an abomination to the Lord your God. So that's one. We should avoid ill-gotten gain. Number two is, when we're investing to make profit, that's true, but we're rooting for these companies. So if you're investing in pornography and tobacco and abortion, every single time you look at your investment statement, you're not hoping for the statement value to be falling and falling and falling. Mm-hmm. You're hoping the statement value is increasing and increasing and increasing, which means you're hoping for more people to be smoking. We're hoping for more abortions to be happening. You're hoping for more pornography to be sold in the world. Because if you're investing in these things, that's how your profits are growing. So one question I would ask to the Christian is, what are you rooting for? Let's align our capital so that we're rooting for the things that we should be rooting for. Jesus said, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Mm-hmm. I do think that we could redirect our hearts by moving our treasures into the things that are good.
Well, okay, so I find that I 100% agree with that. There was always been, every once in a while you go to church, especially when you're visiting a church, you're from out of town, you're visiting a church. It's always the tithe one. Right? I was like, oh man, I always hit Sunday when they're talking about tithe. And that one adage always comes out. It's like, show me a man's checkbook and I'll show you where his heart is. Right. So very similar to that. What you're kind of saying in the investment side is that where you're putting money is going to kind of tell you. And what you're trying to say is that if you allow me to kind of paraphrase, is that there's a lot of investments out there, like this ethical company that you were talking about earlier, that it sounds good on the outside, but when you really start digging into it, it's not the values that you share inside your faith. And so the question is, okay, do you back out of it or do you just let it ride because it's making a lot of money, right? So that's something that people really have to understand. What you're doing for your investors and your clients is that you're making those decisions for them. That's the reason why they are your clients, right? They want that kind of guidance. So these are very strong ideals, and they're probably not very popular, especially in a secular world that just thinks that they want to make money. It's like money is success. So tell me, when did Robin John decide, like what is the backstory of Robin John to where you came up through whatever your story is to get to this point where I think I need to make an investment company that is Judeo-Christian minded, and I want to do this for the glory of the kingdom. What happened in your life that you decided that this is where you are supposed to be?
A couple of things. One, I was born in India to grandparents who were very faithful and prayerful, and I always wanted to live a life of faithfulness and generosity. That's what I saw in them. But I think because of that, I had the same problem that I think a lot of Christians have, which is a sacred secular mindset. So I thought to honor God meant I have to be a pastor or a full-time missionary somewhere. And when you grow up in some of these churches, including like Pentecostal, Indian churches, sometimes even the word man of God or servant of God is used to refer to the pastor. So the rest of you feel like you're not a servant of God or a man of God.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so I grew up with this sacred secular thinking and wanting to know that I am being useful for God's kingdom, that I am honoring God in my work, that my work matters to God. And I moved to the U.S. as a kid with my family, and moved to Boston, and went through school, went through Tufts University, and got a job at a large custody bank. And they were outsourcing to India, and I'm 24 years old. They asked me whether I would move to India, and I did. I moved to a place called Pune, which is near Bombay. As soon as I got there, it's like someone punched me in the nose, what I was seeing around me. You see like old men crawling on the ground. They're lame, no legs, and they have no wheelchair. And you see blood and pus on their knees. You see old women who are burning tires in a metal trash can, so that they can make tar for the streets, for the road. You see poor children who are made blinded, and they come and knock on your window when you're sitting in a car begging for money, and you know that they're kidnapped and blinded, and this money goes back to their keepers. I grew up in a place called Kerala, South India, as a kid. You don't see that in Kerala. In fact, in India, they call Kerala God's country because it's so tropical and beautiful. It's also 40% Christian compared to 2-3% for the rest of India.
Okay.
What I was seeing really bothered me. I was just thinking, man, this is India. This is terrible. Soon I moved into the guest house of the company, and there were two guys. Their names rhymed, Amal and Kamal, and these guys would follow me everywhere. Have you seen the movie Mr. Deeds?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. It's like the butler guy from Mr. Deeds. They would always follow me everywhere. It's like sneaky, sneaky, sir. I'm sneaky. So they would follow me around, and always, sir, what can I get for you? In the mornings, they would iron my clothes for me. They would do my laundry. They would make my breakfast, ask me what I want for dinner. They would have the dinner waiting for me when I come home. One day, I was standing in the kitchen while they were preparing food. I saw behind the kitchen a pantry. I said to Amal and Kamal, do you guys sleep back there? They said, yes, sir, we do. And I said, why are you sleeping on the floor? There's a lot of empty bedrooms here. Take a bedroom. And they said, no, sir, we're not allowed. And I sent an email to management in America and said, please give Amal and Kamal a bed. And the response I got was, no, we're not responsible for Amal and Kamal. We outsourced the guest house to a local guest house vendor. I wrote back to the company and said, we are a large American company. They're a small guest house vendor. Just ask. They will make the change to keep your business. My employer decided that was not their place to ask.
What?
So Amal and Kamal continue to sleep on the floor. It's a stone floor behind the kitchen, no air conditioner, humid and hot. And I'm sleeping in an air-conditioned room with a beautiful brand new bed. And a few days after that, I'm sitting in the living room, and one of my American colleagues was walking out through the front door, and Kamal, the cook, was walking in through the front door. And my American colleague said to Kamal, servants shouldn't use the front door. And that really bothered me. I'm sitting there, and Kamal walks in. Kamal looks at me, and Kamal says, sir, I am a human being too. And I just sat there. People ask me, Robin, like, why didn't you do more for Kamal? And why didn't you speak up? I was, I think, feeling the same shock. I'm an Indian person, and Kamal and I look the same. I grew up in a poor background, poor family. We had no running water in our house as kids. When we were growing up in Kerala, we had an outhouse. The electricity would go out around 7 p.m., but it was beautiful. Late nights we would pray and read. My grandfather would teach us the Bible, and we would sing songs. at the end of family prayer, we would shout hallelujahs, little kids. Yeah, it was a beautiful life. And so now I feel like I'm in a place of having an impact. And I started asking myself, like, what am I doing in this company? What am I doing? Am I just trying to make myself rich? Am I trying to, it's a custody bank. I'm asking myself, am I working to make rich people richer? Why am I not working for the sake of people like the Ammals and Kammals of the world? So that question started bothering me a lot. I left that job, came back to the U.S., took another job without spending time in prayer. I got fired from the other job within a few months. And that led me to, so a couple of years before this, I had started, myself and Finney and my brother. Finney is a co-founder of Eventide with me.
Okay.
We had started a house church together in Cambridge. Finney is a Bible teacher, and students from Harvard and MIT and Tufts would come there just to hear him teach. So I was close to Finney. Finney's a good friend of mine, about 6 years older than me. And so I said, Finney, I lost a job. Can you pray with me? I'm trying to figure out what to do with my life. And Finney said, Robin, I will fast and pray with you. So we started fasting and praying once a week. And initially the prayer was like, what should Robin do with his life? And
Robin's messed up. We need to fix that guy.
We need to fix Robin. Yeah, yes. Yeah, Robin needs a calling. Robin needs a calling. And so we started praying, and ultimately, we felt that God was calling us together to do something. So we started envisioning different ideas of things we could do together. And one day I said to Finney, I know how you invest your money. I had never invested in anything in my life. I had never invested in the stock market. I had never had a 401k plan. But Finney would talk to I would hear Finney talk to my father about how he doesn't invest in American mutual funds or, I guess ETFs. Back then ETFs were not big, exchange traded funds. Because he said, I cannot come to partner with the underlying holdings of these funds. I see tobacco and pornography and abortion and things like that. So Finney was building his own investment portfolio and doing well with it. I said, Finney, if we could create something like a fund, do you think other Christians would want to partner with us? That's how that conversation started. And initially, Finney's answer was no. It doesn't. He had concerns. He said, what if we underperform? Will that bring dishonor to God if we are leading with biblical principles?
Okay.
Another concern he had was, are we guilting Christians into investing with us?
So those are valid concerns.
Yeah. So we prayed through this and ultimately became convinced that we needed to do this. And we said, you know what? We got to be extremely clear about what our convictions are, but we also have to make sure that our product could stand up against any product in the marketplace. Ultimately, the growth of Eventide really happened after the first 5 years. The Wall Street Journal wrote an article about how our first fund was the best performing fund in the market. Nice. And again, I got to be very clear to the listener. I'm not claiming that we always perform well. I'm not. Okay. There are years where we underperform the market, years where we outperform the market. But at the 5-year mark, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal wrote these articles. That really helped our growth. And we had, I think, secular non-Christians just wanting that and wanting to partner with us. And it was after that 5-year period, we said, you know what, we got to lean in even more into the Christian messaging. We need our investors to know what we're investing in, what our values are. We don't want them to be surprised after they invest, after they saw the performance and invested, and now find out they're investing in a faith-based product. We need to be very, very clear about who we are.
So in that particular case, then, once people got the idea and said, okay, I'm investing with these individuals, they've got a certain value statement that that resonates with me. Then how did that spread? Because you said that you have a fairly large client list, right? And which, by the way, congratulations to you. I think that's fantastic, especially again having this type of value statement that is just not popular in the business world. It's something that people talk about behind closed doors, and that you say one thing in front of a podium, and all of a sudden half of your business is gone because they're like, I didn't know he was like that, right? I didn't know he was one of those Bible thumpers, those Jesus lovers, right? But so it's interesting to me how people can also be successful and also be Christian and be vocal about that. Not in a way that you're smacking people over the head, but you're just like, look, that's just not for me. And if you want to do business with me, this is what I'm all about. And I would love for you to come over on my side and be with me in this value system.
Yes.
But if that's not where you want to be, that's okay. I'm okay with saying no to your business. That's again, it's a bold statement, but I think because of your boldness, stepping out in this faith, I think you've been blessed. I think that God has favored you, and like you said, it's not always beating the market, not always, but I think that one. You're obviously very passionate about what you do. You're working with people who love you, who you love. Your clients are people who are respectful to not just each other, but also other people outside of their communities, right? So it's like you're building this community and showing how kind of you go all the way back to Eden. It's like this was kind of how it was supposed to work in the beginning. We kind of messed up, so we're making amends for that. But now that Jesus has come, died for our sins, and now we're moving on with that, let's grab that and give credit where credit is due. This is not our money. We're given the ability to steward these resources for the limited amount of time that we're given on this planet to do so. And
Yes.
and you have been, and so now you are in an investment house or a brokerage that takes those, and you're serious about it. That is your mandate.
Yes.
So tell me, when you go out and you have these conversations, when you're in a room of a bunch of different brokers that that have conferences and what have you, do people talk to you like, I don't get it, how are you doing this? How are you so successful? Do they have conversations like that?
Yes. Yeah, so it's been a lot of learning for me over the years, and initially I hadn't figured it out, right? So initially I would go to a broker dealer's office and do a lunch and learn and start talking about my values. I had people walk out and leave in the middle of it.
I'm sure you did.
Okay?
I'm sure you did.
Yeah, so there was one time a woman stood up and said, I didn't know you screened for abortion. How's that loving neighbor? And she just walked out in the middle of, and it was so uncomfortable. There was one time in Connecticut, I was asked to leave an office in the middle of a presentation.
Wow.
Okay? So there's been a lot of trial and error and learning along the way. And the one thing I've discovered is that rather than trying to find, you talked about ESG, environmental social governance. So there's a difference for me between mission and values.
Okay.
The ESG world, I would say, is mission aligned with Eventide. They believe in the power of investing, and they want to change the world through investing.
Okay.
So they're mission aligned, but their values are different. Christians have similar values, biblical values, but most Christians I know seek to exercise those values in the way they vote, in the way they give to charity, but not in the way that they work or invest. So basically, early on, I think we were trying to reach everybody and try to promote our values and try to convince them of these values. What I've discovered over the years is that it's better for Eventide to focus on values-aligned Christians and try to get them to be mission-aligned. Show them, okay, you value life at all stages, freedom from addiction, family and community, justice and peace, responsible management practices, environmental stewardship. You have these values. Let's now promote those values through your investing.
Yeah, I think that's wise, and I like that idea because I say idea. It's not like it's a novel concept. It's just you're rooting that in something that, I think we both agree that has actual ground truth to why we're even here. And so in that case, your story coming into it is fantastic. What you're doing now, you're out there, you're discussing all of these really real issues, and people are coming in. Some are staying away, right? That's okay. But now with this book, you've now written a book. You're basically taken all of this experience, put it in a written word, right? And you're putting it out there. So now, as people are starting to come alive to, or come around to really where you have been, how can you encourage people to continue to not only jump in with you, and maybe your firm's not the one that they want to go with, but at least what do you tell people when they're doing investing? If you're not going to invest with me, then I think what kind of, I'm trying to say this, how do you impart the wisdom so that they can be more responsible in their investing rather than just taking it at face value?
Yeah, so along with the book, The Good Investor, we built a website called goodinvestor.com.
Okay.
And if you go on the goodinvestor.com, you could put in the ticker symbols from your 401k plan or whatever, and see what are you investing in. So we just show a basic 5 issues: abortion, pornography, tobacco, alcohol, and violent video gaming. So 5 areas. I'm sorry, gambling, not violent video gaming, gambling. We show 5 areas, and we say, you know what? Let's just see if you're involved in these 5 areas. So that's a way for Christians to get started. Just see what you're investing in now.
Okay.
Before you make a decision of whether to invest with Eventide or somebody else. At the end of the day, the purpose of the book was to help build a movement. Yes, I would love to see Eventide grow, but I also want to help lead a movement. And I often tell our team that if this movement is growing, Eventide will benefit. So my desire is that Christians, by the time I die someday, whenever that is, I hope that I could walk in any church and talk to somebody about the way they invest, and that they have already considered their values, whether they're investing with Eventide or not. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, I go to large mega churches, and I wonder if anybody has ever even thought about where they're investing and what their values are. So I hope through the book that we could catalyze and that we could help inform Christians that there is a better way to invest.
Yeah, so I appreciate that, because I think there's a lot to be said about being out there and being that leader in a space. And the space that you're in is gigantic. There's so much out there, so many different sectors, so many different, there's a bank over here, there's an investment house over here, there's a broker over here. Everybody has a CFA that they, or a CPA that they know, or a financial advisor that they know. And so there's all these different competing voices that are out there. And I think one of the things that I think really resonates with me, specific to Eventide and the Good Investor, is that you've carved out a value statement that one has the mission, like you said. Your mission is here. Your values support that mission, and anybody that aligns with those, come one, come all, right? We're here. But if I don't align and I start asking questions about you, it also gives you the ability to now have a very interesting and intimate conversation with people who maybe before, like you said, they didn't really realize it. And like you said, you're not guilting people into this. You're just exposing the information and saying, did you know? And when they look at it and go, I didn't know. It's like, well, then would you like some alternatives? Something that's, let me see what those goals are that you have, and maybe we have some suitable alternatives that meet not only your our values, but yours too, that you didn't even know you had these values, but now there's a place for you. Come on in. Do you build community groups? Do you have investment groups that meet in different cities or meet at different times on Zoom or whatever, that people can come in and just kind of drop in and get some information?
We don't have that necessarily, partly because we don't, based on industry regulations, we don't meet directly with retail everyday investors. Okay. So we work with financial advisors we have about 16,000 financial advisors that are working with us now.
Awesome.
And many of them are Christian advisors. So what we try to do is to take these Christian financial advisors through a curriculum. We have a curriculum called, if you go to faithandinvesting.com, there is a curriculum there. It's the Eventide Center for Faith and Investing, a 9-hour curriculum. So we try to spend time with these financial advisors to take them through the curriculum, answer their questions, build community through that. We're also hoping to use the book as a way of building a curriculum as well. So we're in the process of doing that. We are connected to groups like Kingdom Advisors.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll be at the conference in like 2 weeks. I've gone to every single conference since 2009. So we have wonderful community with Christian financial advisors through Kingdom Advisors. And we have sales team members all over the country that are attending the monthly study groups that Kingdom Advisors is hosting. But it's not with the retail investors, with the financial advisor. Yeah.
Understood. So I'm interested. You said most of your people are Christian. Most of your advisors are Christians. So for the few or the some that are not, what does that relationship look like? Do you see growth in that? And that obviously growth inside yours, but inside what you guys are doing. But what about the personal growth? Are you seeing advisors kind of come around to your way of thinking? Because there's got to be a reason why they want to attach themselves to you, right? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, there's 2 reasons why they do. One is because they may see the performance of a product and they like the performance, right?
Sure. The money side works, right?
Yes. But second, I think is non-Christian financial advisors still have Christian clients that they need to be able to serve well. So we want to serve those advisors and teach them how to serve their Christian clients well. Ideally, I think a Christian client is better served by a Christian financial advisor who really understands their worldview. Even something like a Christian's desire to live generously. A Christian financial advisor that has gone through the Kingdom Advisors study groups will better be able to serve that need. I'll tell you that even when I worked with a financial advisor, there was a lot of pressure to build an estate plan and minimize taxes, to give as much possible money to my children as possible. I'm thinking, like, I don't want to leave all this money to my children. So,
Warren Buffett?
No, not even close. Not even close. But at the same time, like, we need financial advisors and clients to have shared values, or at least for the financial advisor to understand the values of their clients.
Yeah, and I think that's really important because that's something. And so when I go across the financial and accounting landscape, I'm in front of not just CPAs. I'm in front of certified management accountants, certified fraud examiners. You got internal auditors. You got a multitude. The spectrum is very wide and broad from the standpoint of what kind of professionals are inside this portfolio called the accountant, right? The finance person. And what I find is that as we're moving through all of these different sectors, there's a ribbon of truth that runs inside this inside pretty much all of them. Is that if you have the word accountant attached to you, and I'll be so bold as to say finance. I think sometimes if there's a line of demarcation that's there, people really look at the accountant and they innately trust the accountant. Because that person understands the books, they understand the rules, they're working inside parameters, things like the other. Whereas on the finance side, sometimes people get a little loose with the rules because it's like they want to push the envelope, and which I totally understand. But when I'm moving around, there's that little ribbon that brings all of us together, and that's people outside of finance and accounting look at finance and accounting people and say, they know something that I don't. And because of that, I can be a little bit more vulnerable. I'm okay with opening myself up just a little bit more because we work in we work in confidential tones, right? And not to say that everything is confidential, but you know what I mean. Like people when they have a conversation with us, they assume that conversation is going to be kept confidential because it's something it's incredibly sensitive. It's talking about personal net worth. It's talking about money. Nobody wants to talk about money. Only people who want to talk about money are the people that have a lot of it, right? It's like, oh, I'll pay more taxes. It's like, but I don't want to pay more taxes. But when you get down to that level, we all have this just because of the designations that you have, people look at you and go, oh, I can trust this person. I can talk to them about something that's very near and dear to me, money, and they're not going to look at me sideways. So just by virtue of having that opportunity, if you will, and then having the opportunity for them to have another conversation of even greater import with you, I think you're in a position that when you say you want to start a movement, I think you're going to be very close to doing that. Again, as long as you stay within the guardrails of the parameters that you've set for yourself and that God has set for you, I can't see this being So from me to you, just on a personal standpoint, we connect on the Christian side. But I think from a professional side, I'm really excited that there are people like you out there just fighting the good fight, because especially inside the investing world, because there's just so much depravity, there's so much greed, there's just envy. I mean, just list them. They're all there. And just to have you there, and I just kind of see this light, like walking through this dark tunnel, and people are like, what's that? What's that? What's that? I want to know what that is, right? I see you as that. So, thank you for what you do.
No, thank you. Thank you. The Bible says in Matthew 5, Jesus said, let the world see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. When you think about Wall Street, everything you said is true. That's why every Hollywood movie made about Wall Street. So you got Wall Street, you got Wall Street too. Right, exactly. Yeah. There's Wolf of Wall Street. Mm-hmm. There's other people's money, Boiler Room, Margin Call, The Corporation.
That's right.
Yeah, every movie is about greed and exploitation. And imagine if Christians on Wall Street are not known for that, but known for loving others through our work.
But that's a boring movie. No, I love what you're doing. I think Eventide is just you've definitely got your finger on something fantastic. I think you're being blessed by doing God's work. So I am just a retail investor. How do I connect with Eventide? Can you tell me how I get involved with you, or what you guys are doing? How do I get my investments with you?
There are a few ways.
Okay.
One, you could invest directly with us, right? So you could go on our website, you could open an account. Okay. If you have like an IRA or a 401k plan, you could roll that over. You could start a traditional IRA with us and roll that over. You could start a regular investment account with us. You could start a Coverdell account for kids.
Cool.
A custodial account. You could do all that directly with us on our website. If you have an account at a platform like a Schwab or a Fidelity, Eventide's funds are listed there. You could invest through that. But most people are investing with us through financial advisors.
Okay.
So like I said, there are many financial advisors we partner with. We're on over 100 different financial advisor platforms, including all the wirehouses and large broker-dealers. And so if you go to goodinvestor.com, there's a link called Find an Advisor. You can find an advisor by putting in a zip code. These are advisors that have gone through Eventide's 9-hour curriculum, as well as a 60-hour curriculum on money by Kingdom Advisors. So advisors that have gone through both of that are listed in the tool, the goodinvestor.com, Find an Advisor tool. So I would encourage you to connect with a financial advisor that really can help you with the values-based investing.
I love that. And because I am so into the next generation coming up and being informed with this kind of information, I'm a student at a university. I would love to work in an organization that espouses your values. How do I do that? Do I start off by reading your book? Like, how can I get pointed to the right mentor so that I can do what you are doing and carry the same value system that you are basically putting out there?
Yeah. One, please connect with Eventide. Please connect with me. We do post jobs on our careers page, so I would love to. We are wanting to have more and more values aligned people on our team who are extremely bright and competent for the role. That said, I would also connect with organizations like Kingdom Advisors. Kingdom Advisors allows for students to come through the conferences that they do.
Great.
And that's an opportunity for you to interact with about 2,000 financial advisors that come to the conference. These are people that could also offer internships. These are people at Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, UBS,
Awesome.
Edward Jones.
Awesome.
Right? So come to that conference and connect with financial advisors that share biblical values, but also a heart to work in ways that align with biblical principles.
That is absolutely exciting. All right, Robin John, I'm going to give you the last word. You have this great book that's out there. We're going to put it in the show notes so no one's going to miss it. You have this fantastic brokerage that is doing God's work. Why don't you take us out?
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, I thought maybe we would compare biceps, but maybe we'll do that.
Oh, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. Get up there. Give it to me. Come on, give it to me. Come on, put it up there.
So I got to take off my jacket for this one.
Oh, don't fool you guys. When he came down to Savannah and I met him, he's like, check this out.
It's not bad,
look at
right?
that. Your shirt's gonna rip. I gotta get you some Redcon some protein, baby.
So by the way, I play a lot of basketball, so my calves are more impressive than my biceps. So, yeah.
Love it.
So yeah, so I would say, for everybody listening, your work matters, and whatever you're doing, you can be honoring God, and for many people, your work might already be honoring to God, and no one has told you that. So you just need to be encouraged in that. I often talk about my mom, my dad. As a nursing aide, my mom was making minimum wage, and she still struggles with English. So, growing up, I would hear words like Habib and Apu. People would make fun of me. I can imagine the things that she would have heard, and maybe she thought, man, this sucks to work in this job where I have to clean diapers and bathe the elderly who are mistreating me. But I wish somebody said to her that job is not just about the minimum wage she's making, but it's about loving others. She's serving and loving the elderly every day. So I just want to leave everyone with that. If you're feeling discouraged in your work, maybe you're already doing work that is honoring to God, and it's not just about the money, but it's about how you're impacting the world through your work. And when it comes to your investing, I do hope that each and every person listening would at least look at your portfolio, run it through the Good Investor screening tool at goodinvestor.com. Just run it through and see what it shows, and then make your decisions based on that. So that would be my only challenge to the listener.
I love it. I absolutely. This conversation has been incredibly enlightening. I really appreciate you professionally, what you bring to the table, but also I appreciate your friendship. So, thank you very much for spending some time with us today on Business Biceps and BS. And in the future, maybe we'll add calves to the name of this show. But listen, Robin John, it's been a pleasure. I need you to go be a good and faithful servant, as I know you will be.
Thank you so much, Tim. It was great being with you. Thank you.
You got it, brother. We'll catch you on the flip side.